Let me first start by saying that backward integration is not a mandatory policy of the Petroleum Industry Act. When talking about backward integration in Section 317, I think is subsection 8 of the Petroleum Industry Act, the words used are that the NMDPRA may adopt backward integration policy. How do we ensure that ultimately fuel is produced?
Yes.
Fuel is produced in Nigeria, but fuel is produced at a cost that is affordable,
Yes.
that is economic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to MEMAN Energy's podcast, brought to you by the Industry Competency Center, where we simplify important conversations around Nigeria's energy industry. I am Vanessa Durojaye, Senior Industry Analyst at MEMAN, and on today's episode, we'll be discussing backward integration and importation. We've been having a lot of conversations around local refining, importation, competition, and of course, the role of the NMDPRA in all of this. To bring clarity to this discussion, I have here with me Dr. Adeoye Adefolu, who is one of Nigeria's foremost energy law experts and managing partner at Odunjiri and Adefolu. For over 2 decades, he has advised operators across the entire petroleum value chain. Crucially, he was one of 3 lawyers who advised the National Assembly on petroleum industry reforms, working on its framework from its early drafts all the way to the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act, that's the PIA 2021. Thank you so much, Dr. Adeoye Adefolu, for joining us today. Could you please tell us what your relationship is between the PIB and the PIA?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you today and to talk a little bit about the PIB, the PIA in practice. I'd say I've probably been working on the PIB and now the PIA for almost 18 years since the first bill was placed before the National Assembly by the executive in 2008. So initially worked in the capacity of reviewing and analyzing the bill for private sector participants that, because the bill was going to have a significant impact, obviously, on their operations. After a while, I advised the government in the form of the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Reps on what I think is the sort of 2015 through to 2021 thereabouts. And it was the time that we had the PIGB and ultimately parts of the PIA. So I advised the government almost up to the passage of the PIA. And subsequently, we've been working on the PIA with our clients, trying to help them understand it and implement it. And those clients would include private sector participants, will include upstream players, midstream and downstream players, as well as the regulators, because there's a lot of implementation work around the PIA. And now, even almost 5 years down the line, people are still seeking understanding of the provisions of the PIA.
Exactly. So talking about understanding of the provisions of the PIA, we have a focus for today is on backward integration and importation. Starting with backward integration, we've been hearing a lot of conversations when we have conversations with industry experts. One of the industry terms that have really come to stay right now is backward integration. So in the context of the downstream sector, what does this really mean?
Okay, that's a really interesting question. And what I'd like to do is just change that premise a little bit. I wouldn't call it an industry term. I would call it an industrial policy term. And the usage of backward integration within the Nigerian system has, or at least conversations around it, has gone on for several years. And we've seen backward integration implemented in other sectors such as sugar, such as cement, etc. And back in the 90s, there was a call for backward integration in relation to food substitution. And what is backward integration? Essentially, the policy is built around ensuring that we are producing locally,
Yeah.
and we are incentivizing those who make the investments to produce locally.
Okay.
And backward integration gives them the option of bringing in products in the case of the downstream,
Yes.
where there are shortfalls
Shortfalls.
in the market.
Yeah.
So that's essentially it, to encourage investments in the refinery sector primarily,
Yeah.
and where those investments have paid off, where those investments are in place, to ensure that sort of the licenses around importation of petroleum products
Yes.
will be granted broadly, and I will use the term broadly,
Okay.
granted broadly to those refiners.
Okay, that's perfect. So now coming to the regulators, where do you think they should strike a balance between backward integration, importation, and healthy competition?
Okay, so again, another good question. Let me first start by saying that backward integration is not a mandatory policy of the Petroleum Industry Act. The use, when talking about backward integration in section 317, I think is subsection 8 of the Petroleum Industry Act,
Yeah.
the words used are that the NMDPRA may adopt backward integration policy.
Okay.
The use of the word may is deliberate. It means that the NMDPRA has discretion to determine whether backward integration policy is to be utilized or not. In the exercise of that discretion, they may decide to adopt it. They may decide not to adopt it. And you have to look at backward integration policy in the context of the overall mandate of the NMDPRA. In addition to its mandate to be a commercial regulator and technical regulator of the midstream and downstream space, it has a competition mandate. Because the petroleum products that are ultimately sold in the downstream sector have a significant effect on the Nigerian economy and Nigerian consumers as a whole. So one of its main jobs is to ensure that competition, that there is healthy competition in the market.
Yeah.
And so it must place the backward integration policy, which, does not mandate, but gives the discretionary power for it to grant licenses to people who have invested in local refineries. Must place that in the context of competition. How do we ensure that ultimately fuel is produced?
Yes.
Fuel is produced in Nigeria,
Yes.
but fuel is produced at a cost that is
Affordable.
affordable,
Yes.
that is economic, and that ensures that the consumers are not exposed to inflation and the inflationary effects of high petroleum product prices.
Yes. So that's, in summary, we can just say that importation can come in, right, when we have a shortfall in supply from the domestic refineries. And for healthy competition, it bridges the gap when we talk about affordability.
I mean, certainly that is the case.
Okay.
And the mandate of the commission is to ensure that, perhaps not one person or not one small group of people control the market and therefore dictate the price. And so the job of the commission is to ensure that there are mechanisms in place, that there are systems in place, such as, for example, importation, to balance balance the market.
Yes. Okay, that's correct. So where do you think, we have the NOC, which is NNPCL. In the PIA, they are the supplier of last resort. Where do you think they come in?
Well, I mean, So if we look at the supply of last resort mechanism, that is also something that is provided for under Section 317
Yes.
of the Petroleum
yeah.
Industry Act.
Yes.
There are three things around the supply of last resort mechanism. The first is that it's not at the behest of NNPC, meaning the federal government has to actually ask NNPC to play that role. Secondly, it is time bound, meaning that under the Act, it says within 6 months of the effective date of the Petroleum Industry Act, meaning that it is only 6 months from August 2021, i.e., sometime in, I think it's February 2022, that supply of last resort mechanism lasts. So right now, the federal government cannot make that request. And there is no statutory backing for the federal government to make that request. And the third thing is that if they do make the request, or if they did make the request within that period of time, the whatever amount, whatever charges, whatever costs are associated with that request, all those charges will be to the Federation account. So as it is now, the supply of last resort mechanism is out of the window on a statutory basis. There's no mandate. And if the request does come from the federal government, NNPCL can turn down that request.
Interesting. Okay, so let me just use this to wrap up. What do you have to say to industry players, the general public, as regards importation, healthy competition, backward integration, supply of last resort, which you just mentioned? What do you have to?
I mean, look, I think the principle of backward integration as a broad policy is right. I think encouraging investment in local refineries is very good for Nigeria. It helps with foreign exchange. It helps with creation of local jobs, etc. It does have side effects or wider effects for the Nigerian economy. However, you must always balance that against the competition issues. The job of the NMDPRA, and they have been given both tools. They have a discretionary tool to adopt the backward integration policy. They also have a competition mandate within Section 210 to 212 of the Petroleum Industry Act. So they must balance those things side by side and ensure that ultimately the public interest, the interest of the final consumers who will pay the price of petrol for their transportation, who will use petrol for the transportation of food that goes across the country, who will use fuel to travel by air, etc., to make sure that those interests, as it were, come first. And so whilst we encourage the investment in refineries, that balance around competition, which to an extent is protected by the use of importation licenses and granting of importation licenses, not just to refiners, as the PIA provides. It says even when you adopt the backward integration policy, refiners are included in the pot of people that you can grant importation licenses to. But it also grants you the right, grants NMDPRA the right to grant those licenses to traders who have crude oil traders of international repute and petroleum products traders of international repute as well. So using those mechanisms to create that balance, that is the job that an NMDPRA must do.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing so much clarity to this backward integration and importation. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of the MEMAN Energies podcast. We hope to have you next time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And thank you to everyone for joining us on this episode. Do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media pages for industry updates. See you on the next episode.